Welcome to USA Global TV and Radio, where our mission is to provide education, entertainment, hope, and inspiration. USA Global TV and Radio connects you with experts and audiences all around the world every single day to help you succeed in business and to live a richer life. Visit us at usaglobaltv.com to learn about career and life-changing training and mentoring programs like the Listening Mentor. Subscribe to our newsletter to stay informed about our special programs and offers. Discover how you can become a guest on one of our shows or a host or producer of a USA Global TV and Radio show of your very own. That's USA Global TV and Radio, where the doctor is always in.
Hello, welcome to USA Global TV and Radio in partnership with E360 TV. Welcome to all of our viewers on all the different platforms, especially our new viewers that are here today. Our show today is A Woman's Prerogative Part 2. And today our topic is Sustainable Fashion Choices and Ethical Brands Part 2. We had our Part 1 and we've literally just finished that show and we are launching into our Part 2. And with me is the wonderful Mariska Dupree, who's part of this panel and has been here for a long time. Let's welcome and bring out Mariska Dupree to discuss our topic tonight.
Mariska's not here at the moment. Haha.
Oh, right. Okay. What happened?
She dropped off. She'll be back in a minute.
Okay. All right. Well, while we're waiting for Mariska, let's have a conversation about what ethical brands are. And it was a really interesting subject for me to research, something that I didn't know a lot about in terms of what it actually meant. And so in my research, I found that there was all sorts of things that made sense. What makes it ethical? What makes it sustainable? It would be things that you probably would be thinking about anyway when you're buying any type of item. And so what makes it ethical is the labor that has been working on the garment that you have purchased. Is it a labor that is not in a sweatshop? Have they been paid fairly? Are they in good conditions? Also, it is also about the fact that they are working not too many hours, that they are being taken care of. And it is also about the item itself, the material. Has the material been bought and produced ethically? Has not only the workforce, but also the people around the animals, as it being as there being any animal cruelty in producing this item. And so it is much broader. I tend to think about these things when I'm buying makeup, you know, beauty without cruelty, not tested on animals. But it's also, this is about our fashion, and younger people are much more, the millennials and the Gen Zs are much more looking at this kind of attitude. And this has led into people buying much more ethically in different ways. So vintage, secondhand, it's not secondhand anymore, it's called vintage. And there are many websites that you can buy hand-me-downs, which is what was known for me when I was young, but it's actually now called vintage. And so people have got an interesting take on clothes that are not new. It's called vintage. And it's not a shameful thing to do because you haven't got the money. It's a luxury thing to do. And it's also a luxury thing for you to give away the clothes that you're not wearing to charities, or sell them, or give them to people that are less fortunate than you. And so from my perspective, it is a much broader topic than just looking at the sustainability of the clothes that are being manufactured. Oh, welcome, Mariska. I'm glad that you managed to come through. That's wonderful. We lost you for a...
Yeah.
So Mariska is one of these top coaches that is top trained, and she's part of our panel tonight. Thank you very much for coming back to me. I was not sure if I was going to be here on my own tonight. So that's great. So Mariska, I've just literally finished the show, the part 1 of this topic. And we finished the show about 5 to 9 in the end. So I've quickly zipped over to a new studio. So tell me, when you think about ethical brands, when you think about sustainability, what comes to mind when you think about the word sustainability in any aspect? What comes to mind when you first think of that word?
Sustainability for me is one of those words that it has become a little bit of a everyday use sort of word, and I don't think people really appreciate the depth of it. Because when I think about sustainability, I really think about the longevity. So not only 10 years, 20 years, 30 years from now, more like 100, 200, 300 years from now. It's really how it is not only affecting us right now, but very far into the future, and what that might look like. And one of the other things that I think about when I think about sustainability is ecosystems. So the world and nature is a wonderful place to show us this element of ecosystems. We have, so if you have a house plant, right? There's a wee little small ecosystem within that pot with that plant. There's going to be, yeah, I know you don't want to know this, but there's most probably going to be a couple of bugs in there. There's going to be some organisms that live with said plant. And within a larger space within our home, there's an ecosystem again. And within the city that we stay, or the environment in which we find ourselves, these ecosystems are all the places that we go. And sustainability to me is, how do we help this ecosystem to thrive and carry on for a very long time?
Beautiful comments, and really, really good suggestions in terms of what your thoughts are on sustainability, and they very much mirror my aim. But let's looking at fashion, sustainability in fashion. I'd like to share a story about how I was kind of quite upset, angry, and at the same time shared this this sustainability thing that I didn't probably realize. In 2000, I got married and I spent a fortune. I spent an absolute fortune, and I got the person, I actually had the dress designed and spent a lot of money in terms of it being made by a person who had stitched it all, and I'd lost a lot of weight. And so she had to stitch it all. I actually went down 2 dress sizes. I was a size 16 and went down to a size Dorothy Perkins, size 12. So she had to take a lot of material in. It was a big deal. And that to me was a huge thing, you know, and I had all the accessories, the parasol, you know, the gloves and all the jewelry. And when the marriage didn't work, which it failed in 2005, so it's only 5 years that I was in it, I decided to give it all away. I didn't sell it. I just said, I can't have, and I boxed it all up, you know, and it was a very, very expensive outfit, shoes, all the accessories, all the jewelry, and, you know, sort of the undergarments, because it was poofed out a bit, as well as, you know, yes, it was a little like that. And I took pleasure in telling my mum to take the whole lot to a charity shop. And I said, somebody is going to be very happy with that find. Somebody is going to really delight with the fact that they've got something that has only ever been worn once. It had never come out the box afterwards, and it was very expensive. And I didn't think once about the cost. I didn't think once about getting any money for it. I just wanted to give it away. I said, it might bring luck to someone else. And that to me was, I wanted to give it away rather than sell it, because that was my thing about sustainability. You know, that somebody less fortunate than I was at the time might be able to have a wedding dress, a designer wedding dress at that, that would actually be really, really next to nothing from a charity shop. And I was feeling absolutely delighted with my decision, to the point that in making that decision, I knew that it would have made somebody's day, somebody's special day. And from my perspective, it was a good way to let go of something that had actually not worked. What are your thoughts about my story there, in terms of something that didn't work, that was very sad, and at the same time thinking about somebody else benefiting from something that didn't work for me?
Caroline, thank you for sharing that story. And I really appreciate how, having gone through all the effort of getting the dress designed and as you said, literally having all the bells and whistles, and going, well, I know that maybe for me it didn't quite work out, and it might benefit someone else in a different way. It might literally make their special day even more special. So I love that. And as you were mentioning this almost repurposing of the wedding dress, it brought to mind something my mom did with her wedding dress. So instead of donating it to a charity shop, what she did is she took her wedding dress and she made our christening dress, so the one that I got christened in, from her wedding dress. So she literally took it, cut it up into smaller little pieces, and I got to wear it to church as well. I was very little, of course, cannot remember a thing, but I got to wear it too. So that was the way that she repurposed her dress, and that then became mine as well as my sister's, and it is now a family heirloom, as I think my sister had 2 of her children christened in as well. So there's a multitude of repurposing and keeping things sustainable within the fashion industry as well. And as you were mentioning that designer dress going to a charity shop, that is from time to time, I might add, where I can find some of the most beautiful pieces of clothing. So, Caroline, because of your heart, you made somebody else's special day even more special, and because of other people that, well, didn't want or maybe grew out of some of their garments, they make my closet a little bit more special too.
I love it. And I never found out what happened to the dress. I think I was so angry that the marriage didn't work that I just said, oh, please just give it all away. Take it to a really good charity shop. And my mum did. And I can't remember where she took it to, but it was a local charity shop in the village. But, that's something that I like to do. I like to get rid of what I've grown out of or I'm not wearing anymore if they're still good, because I spent a lot of money when I was in corporate on jackets and outfits and suits and dresses. And when I had a big clear out before I moved, I literally said, I've not worn that for 20 years. I think I need to move that. I've lost weight. In my wardrobe, I had 3 sizes and I thought I'm never going to be that size again. And so repurposing, letting go was a huge thing for me because I didn't want to throw it away. I didn't want it to go in landfill, and I didn't want it to be, become toxic to the environment. And this is part of the sustainability in terms of making sure that things are repurposed. And I had great delight in taking suitcase full of clothes, time and time again, coats and jackets and dresses and trouser suits and outfits. And I just had great delight in saying, please, I hope these go to a really, really good person. And I hope that you make lots of money from them. And I never thought about selling them myself, even though there was some designer stuff in there. And that was because I wanted to be sustainable in terms of losing and thinning down my wardrobe and moving on to a different type of wardrobe and literally thinning down everything that I'd not worn. I still have some of that to do. I never went through the tops and the small things, so I still have that all boxed to sort. So what are your strategies in terms of when you've grown out of clothes, or do you have 2 or 3 sizes in your wardrobe, or have you managed to maintain a wonderful size all the way through? How do you repurpose, or how do you get rid of clothes that you don't wear anymore that are still good?
Caroline, I'm of the same thought pattern as yourself. So if there is, I have not a lot, but from time to time, I do have clothing that sort of look at and go, yeah, I haven't worn you in a while, so bye. Off you go, especially when we move. I mean, I have a decent closet of clothing, and I keep the ones that I wear loads, and the ones that I don't goes off to a better home. And I do the same that you do by taking those to a charity shop where they can be repurposed and somebody else can love them until hopefully they literally fall to pieces. So one of the other things that I do have a tendency to do also is when I am looking for something to spruce up my wardrobe is I will typically go to one of those shops first and see whether I can find something that would be within the range or style that I'm looking for before I go to a shop that sells new clothing. So that's one of the other things that I do within my closet space. And then I also look for clothing that would be long wearing. I want stuff that's high quality because typically I try to, don't always succeed, but try to stay within a certain dress size. My mom told us or taught us when we were little that if you start to feel that there's a pinch around the middle for whatever reason, it might be an indication to change what you are eating and how you are exercising so you can fit into your clothing again. Don't go out and buy new stuff. There's better ways of doing it. So I've tried very hard, and as I said, not always successful in that endeavor. So try. But that's the things that I also enjoy doing within my closet, because sometimes it needs a bit of a sprucing up. And I don't know, Caroline, how are you with the fashion trends? So all the new and wonderful things that they always try to sell to us.
Well, like you, I'm very conscious about keeping weight, but I've not been very good. And I have yo-yoed between 3 different sizes. And I think it just depends on what's going on with me. And I accept the fact that I've never been happy, but I don't like to squeeze into things. And so because I don't like to squeeze into anything, I tend to buy my clothes much more roomy. So I'm probably more a 12, but will buy a 14. Or if I'm a 14, I will buy a 16. And it's just about comfort. One of the things that you mentioned about buying clothes from charity shops, vintage charity shops, is something that, because the way that we had quite a large family, I always had clothes that were handed down from other people. My mum did go to charity shops, or she did go to other places where she knew the person that I was buying from. And so I lived in a lot of hand-me-down clothes, which is what they called them then. And so as a consequence of that, I refuse to buy clothes that are in charity shops. I won't even look at them, even though I will always donate. I'll always buy new because of the fact of my upbringing and what I did do then. I thought, well, I've done my time of wearing clothes from charity shops and hand-me-downs, as we called them. And yet there are many of my friends that do buy the most stunning clothes from charity shops, and they find the most incredible clothes in terms of fashion and trends and really good quality. And it's what, when I think about it, it's what I give as well. You know, when I'm given to charity shops, I give good quality, and if it's not good quality, I will throw it in the bin. But most of the time, you know, I've either grown out of it or it doesn't fit anymore, and there's nothing wrong with it, which is why it ends up in a charity shop. And so from my perspective, I will give it, but I don't buy it. I tend to buy bric-a-brac from charity shops, or furniture, because I really like antique type furniture, brass pots and, you know, sort of 18th century, early 19th century type ornaments. And so I will buy it in a different way. So I am sustainable in the fact that I will give it, but I won't wear it. And that's just part of my makeup now. I will always buy new. And if I can't afford to buy what I'm looking for, I just wait until I can. But vintage is definitely something that is talked about here in the UK, that they've rebranded this hand-me-down, second-hand charity wear to vintage, and it's become a very popular, it's become populist in terms of millennials and Zoomers literally looking out for those types of clothes. And certainly there's a lot of 70s gear that's being worn now that were in wardrobes. I mean, I did get rid of a lot of my 70s gear, and 80s clothes being worn and being found on the vintage apps. So definitely there is much more a focus on sustainability in terms of buying clothes in our younger generations that are looking for clothes now. So tell me a little bit more about what your thoughts are on the fact that, you know, I'm very conscious when I'm buying makeup that I'm looking at beauty without cruelty. I'm looking at mineral makeup, but then taking it into fashion and items that I'm, you know, accessories, handbags and fashion necklaces. I'm probably not so great at thinking about it. There is a lot of news about it, you know, in terms of, you know, big brands, big fashion brands actually having sweatshops and slave labor. So what are your thoughts about, you know, where would you go? Have you got any considerations in terms of buying your fashion?
Caroline, the main consideration that I have when I think about buying fashion, one, as I mentioned, I like to go to the vintage shops first, One of the reasons for doing that is, well, I get to love an item for longer, so it gets to live a little bit longer. And one of the other elements of that is that one of the things that I keep in mind within the fashion space, and maybe this is the engineer in me, or maybe it's coming from the energy industry, is the amount of energy that we need to put into something to make it be there. And if the garment has already been made, right, and I get them from the vintage store, in all likelihood, whatever energy went into making them, so whatever process they used for it, was already recuperated in some shape or form by the first person that bought it. So I'm putting some extra energy gain onto the item by wearing it myself. So taking it on for me. Whereas when I buy a new item, I need to make sure that that item is really going to last me for a long time in order for me to almost repay the energy that was put into it back. I know this is a very weird way of thinking about clothing. One of the reasons why I typically do not do the whole go after the fashion thing, it's not the way that I work. I look for things that I can love for a long time and that I really enjoy wearing. And that's the things that I would buy, whether it is fashionable at that stage or not. I don't really care about that piece of it as much. So that's the way that I would think about buying fashion. And then one of the other elements is making sure that whatever it is that I buy is as sustainable as possible. Now, unfortunately, for a lot of the clothing that we wear, well, sustainability is really debatable on it, because if we wear something that has some poly whatever's in it, which means there's a plastic form of it in it, it means that the item might be long wearing, so it's not going to start to look bad very fast. And unfortunately, the process to make that material or make that item might not be so very great for the planet. Where if it is something that is more organic, so your cottons, your linens, those sort of materials, that has more of a organic nature, so they break down a lot better. They don't necessarily last as long. They wear very well though. So there's always the ups and downs for different types of materials and different ways that they were manufactured. In general, I try to avoid any places that use sweatshops. And in saying that, I have noticed in the fashion industry, we cannot always trace it back. So not all the places actually give you who's the suppliers or the supplier's suppliers. So we don't quite get all the information within that space. We can try, and it's a good endeavor to do so. Another reason why it is so much more fun to go and thrift through a vintage store, because I never know what I'm going to find. Plus, well, whenever it came from, it may or may not have ticked some boxes. At least I know that some of that energy has already been returned. So I'm giving it a new lease to life. And that would be my thinking on that piece of it.
I love it. There were so many good points that you made in that, Mariska, that, you know, sort of I felt I was actually nodding as you were saying things. You know, really, really good ethics, good points in terms of what you're looking for. I'm not much of a fashion fiend now. I certainly was when I was much younger, and I wanted the brands and I wanted to look the part, you know, and I spent the money. But I'm probably less in that space now than I was when I was much younger. And that's probably because I don't need now to wear a label to feel special, that I know that I am special. And this is one of the things about the labels, that there's a cost to that label. And at the same time, what is the opportunity cost on the environment, on the people that are working on the item and the distribution channel. Because when you're looking at ethical and sustainable, you're looking at all the distribution channel all the way through, and who's packing it. Is it a sweatshop? Is it ethical all the way through the chain of production and obviously selling? And when I was doing my research, I was really surprised that it's not easy to find these ethical stores. And some places that are high fashion and high brand that are on our retail high streets are essentially not coming up with good quality, sustainability, and ethical brands. But I did find in my research a website that highlighted brands that were sustainable and that were ethical and that had a chain that you could look at, and they were identifying them as good here in this area, not good in this area. And I shared that with our wonderful Dr. JACALYN. So hopefully she will share that now. Yes. So you can actually put in the brand of the item that you're looking at, this particular website. And it's one that I found in my research, and not that they've made any sponsorship to this show, but I was quite pleased to find that obviously, like you and I, we don't know what all the different elements are. And so this is where you can actually go and look, put in the brand, and they've got thousands of brands that you can actually research and find out what their ethical and sustainability ethics are. And it's not just about the way that it's made, it's about the wages. It's about the of the people that are making the item, and it's also, it could become quite expensive. And certainly I think about that when I'm buying makeup. But in researching for this particular show, it made me feel a bit more conscious about the way that I would be buying brands, because I'm certainly conscious about the makeup that I put on and the skinwear when I'm in the shower, and things that mean something, that, you know, sort of in looking at fashion, it really does take it to another level. And I know for sure that our millennials and our Zoomers are very much looking at this type of ethic in terms of what they're buying, which is why they're buying so much more vintage and in shops that are secondhand. And the reason they're doing that is because they want to be ethical. They are very conscious about the planet. They're very conscious about our environment, what water is being used, how it's being treated, has there been any animal cruelty. So when I'm looking at all these things, they're very hot subjects and topics, and they make you think. Certainly, you know, they made me think about the beauty side of things. What are your thoughts? What comes up for you when you hear some of these sustainability and ethical branding on clothing? Because it's not something that I was really brought up thinking about. Now in looking at this, you know, our younger generation are much more into looking at these ethics and principles. What are your thoughts about that?
Caroline, that's an interesting question, because I think to an extent, we also need to determine what our own thinking is around what ethics and sustainability looks like. As you mentioned, yes, there's the element around the who made the garment, right? Was it a sweatshop? How were the people paid? What was the conditions in which they worked? Which, whether we are in fashion or not in fashion, there's always a question about what the conditions are in which we work and whether that is sustainable as an industry, just in general. So there's those elements, and then of course there's the elements around the energy that went into it. So what resources that we have to use to actually get this thing from a little cotton ball on a field to being a garment, what was the process that it had to go through, what resources did it need to use, what energy went into it. And I'm very happy to see that website, and I would love to actually dig into it a little bit more to see what the ecosystem, going back to that first thing that I mentioned, is like for each of those organizations. Because the way that I think about it is, if I have a garment, so say for instance, I'm wearing a top and it's a cotton top. Great, I know it's cotton, and the cotton had to come from somewhere. Now, in my cotton top, I won't only have one of those wee little cotton balls, and I don't know whether you guys know how they look like. Growing up in South Africa, one of my uncles actually planted cotton, so I know how they look like on the field when they are still just cotton balls and not garments yet. So understanding where they physically came from, where did they grow, who picked them, what was the process for them then to get to the place where they were processed, and they have little seeds and stuff in it. So all of that needs to be taken out, and there's processes for that. So understanding all the processes that the cotton went through before it became my shirt. And hopefully that website will have a little bit more on that. I would, as I said, I would love to dig into that website to see how it looks like. But that's stuff that's important to me because it's part of the ecosystem. It's part of the wider thing that this garment came from. For other people, it might not be important. They might not think about it in that way. There might be something else that's important. For instance, the people that worked on the garment, or the other environments that's been impacted through making the garment, whatever the case might be. So that, I think, is something that for us as individuals, we also need to figure out what it is that is the thing that's important around the sustainability and the ethics. And then, well, the broader, the better, I guess. And knowing us as human beings, we typically have a tendency to gravitate to one thing more than others. And in my case, it will most probably be the type of material and a little bit the environment in which it was made. So that would be my main focus areas in all likelihood.
Thank you. Some great points, Mariska. Really, really. I'm nodding here in total agreement with everything that you're saying. I do remember there was a story, and it was again in the beauty side of it, that a brand was known to be using sweatshops in their manufacture, and it immediately turned me off the brand. And there is much more a focus, and there is much more highlighted now as to what's going on in the chain. And certainly if there was a lot more press about the chain of sustainability in fashion, and that's also jewelry as well, I would be much more conscious. And I feel that there is much more emphasis on divulging that kind of information now, so that people are making choices. But one of the questions that Dr. JACALYN raised in part one was, and I'm going to like sort of curb the price because I know where we both are. If you had £1,000, what would you do with that £1,000? Would you buy one item, one really nice fashion garment, or would you buy many?
It depends on the intention of the dollars, I guess, and what it is that I need the item for. So what I would say is, one, whatever garment it is that I buy, I will make sure that it is high quality and that it fits the purpose for what I am buying it for. And it may take all of that finance, or it might take a piece of that finance, and then I get to buy maybe another one. So that would be the way that I would approach it. I would first look at the intention, what I want to use it for, and then I will also make sure, so that would be my two criteria basically. what do I want to use it for, and make sure that it's high quality. And hopefully it fits within that budget. And if it doesn't, then maybe I need to save up a little bit more. It's going to be a very expensive garment in that case. Or I might be able to buy too. You never know. It might be something small, like a scarf. Very, very elaborate, sexy silk scarf. Might get you 2 of them instead of just one.
Well, I was the opposite end of that spectrum. I literally said, well, again, it does depend on, if it's for a wedding or something like that, then I would spend more money. But in retrospect of, sort of the general, if I had £1,000 budget, I would buy many things that actually, so I would look different in different situations in terms of social media. That was something that I shared, that in being pictured, there's a lot more picturing and videoing being done now in our current times than perhaps there was done, when I was on the circuit networking, pre-2000, so we are pictured much more. And if we're wearing the same thing all the time, we're going to be seen as, don't you have anything else? So
see, that's something that, as I was at the mirror this morning, right, getting ready for this show, and having this is dark blue polo neck on, I came to think about Steve Jobs. And I thought, well, he had his black shirt, right, as standard. That's pretty much what he got photographed in all the time, because that's what he wore. Not the same one. I'm sure he had a couple. But that was pretty much his uniform. And I got to thinking about that. I thought, well, you know what? If I have something, I can choose whatever it is, and that becomes my uniform. It makes it so much easier fashion-wise. I don't have to worry about the rest. I can literally just zhuzh it up with a scarf or two every now and again if I want to. And that's my closet sorted. So that interesting that you mentioned that. I just had that thought this morning too.
Well, we are coming to the end of our show, Mariska. Hasn't that gone quickly? And there are so many different aspects to this that we could cover. And certainly in our last show, we covered different aspects. And I made sure that in our part 2, as it was straight afterwards, that we would be covering other things. Oh, so somebody says, even fashion, you need to look good, isn't it? Yes. Whoever this is, don't know. Even in fashion, it is about looking good. Absolutely right. Thank you very much for your contribution and for being on the show live. Yes, it is about looking good. Not so much looking good, but feeling good in what you're wearing. Because if you don't feel good and you've got really nice clothes, have you ever been in that situation where you're pulling and stretching and, tugging at your sleeves and pushing your hem down, then it might look good, but because you look so uncomfortable in that item, it then loses its looking good. So yes, it's important to look good, but I also feel it's especially important to feel good in the item that you're wearing. Thank you so much for your contribution and for listening in. We're really happy that you're here. So Mariska, as we're now at the end of our show, and as I said, Dr. JACALYN will be bringing more to this because there is so much more to look at. And I've certainly uncovered a lot of research that I've been quite pleased about to see. And so I would like to delve further into a lot of these aspects. So as we're moving into our final part of our closure of our show, please do share with our viewers a little bit about what you do and what value that you bring to your clients and how people can contact you.
Thank you for asking, Caroline. So I work with people moving from a specialist into leadership, mostly engineers. So if you are an engineer and you're looking at moving into leadership, or you moved into leadership in any stage of leadership, that's the people that I really enjoy working with. And I help you to bring a little bit more humanness into your space. Yes, I know we love facts and figures, and humans can sometimes be tricky to work with. So that's what I help you with. And this might look like struggling to communicate with people or having those difficult conversations. In any of those areas, you are more than welcome to contact me, and you can do so via my email, which is mariska@journey2discover.com, or alternatively, you can also connect with me via LinkedIn, send me a direct message, and we can start our conversation.
Thank you, Mariska. It's been an absolute pleasure. It really has, and it always is. And I look forward to seeing you next week. And for me, how you can reach me and what I do, I help people bust their stress. I literally help you fight through and identify what is causing your stress, whether it's physical, emotional, mental, behavioral, because when we're stressed, we are literally fighting, we're in conflict. It might be that we're not sleeping. It might be that we're complaining about a relationship that's not working. It might be that we're feeling sad. It might be that we're very tearful. It might be that we're struggling with a neck pain or low back pain, or that we have constant infections, or it might be that we're feeling anxious or depressed. However it's showing up for you, that is your stress. And I help you identify what's causing the pattern of your stress by using root cause therapy, chakra psychology, counseling, and energy healing, as well as some other modalities. I've been doing this work since 2000, that's 24 years. And I now look younger than what I used to look because I'm living in the concept of handling my own stress, depression, and anxiety. And that means that I'm human too, and things affect me. And so I've learned and overcome many different types of challenges, whether they be physical, emotional, mental. And I have cured myself of many things. I offer an introductory offer of 1 hour for an incredible price of £50. That's a 1 hour consultation, which is an introductory price, an incredibly silly price, so that you can experience how I can help you bust your stress. You can reach me on nomorestress@live.co.uk, or call me if you're international, +44. If you're local, 07523 120 189. You can follow me on social media. Facebook and LinkedIn are my preferred platforms, and I'm just getting to grips with Instagram. And I look forward to helping you break through the patterns that create your stress. Thank you very much. I'm Caroline HEWARD, the Harley Street Stress Expert, and your host for this show today. And I look forward to seeing you next week. A very, very warm welcome and a really good celebration to all of our new people that are here for the first time. Please check into our show every Monday at 9 p.m. And we also have, that's British summertime, and we also have our part 1 show at 8 p.m. British summertime. Many thanks, and I look forward to seeing you all next week. Bye-bye for now.
USA Global TV and Radio proudly presents our partner and sponsor, Mr. Philip Sykes and the British School of Excellence. Building confidence, changing lives. And now, proudly presenting the Polished Professional.
On a transformative journey with the British School of Excellence's comprehensive suite of masterclasses, crafted to elevate your professional and personal life. 8 outstanding modules will elevate you to the next level. Module 1, Exploring Life's Purpose, delves into the depths of self-discovery, guiding you to chart your unique path to fulfillment and success. Module 2, Mastering Professional Presence and Confidence. This masterclass is a deep dive into the art of self-assurance and commanding presence, which is essential for standing out in today's competitive landscape. Module 3, Learn the Secrets of Visual Impact, how to curate a personal style that amplifies your professional brand. Module 4, Mastering Professional Etiquette and Communication Excellence, navigating the nuances of corporate interaction with grace and tact. Module 5, elegance in eloquence. We impart powerful techniques to captivate and persuade any audience with your oratory skills. Module 6, unlock the potential of your emotional intelligence, EQ, and harness the ability to connect, empathize, and lead with emotional savvy. Module 7, mastering DISC, building a gateway to understanding behavioral styles, fostering better personal and professional relationships. Module 8, mastery in dining etiquette, building your confidence to perfect the subtleties of dining with finesse, enhancing your social savviness at any table. Step into the Polished Professional program where poise, elegance, and excellence aren't just taught, they're instilled for life. Join us to redefine your potential and polish your professional edge.
To learn more, go to thebritishschoolofexcellence.com. The British School of Excellence are investors in people. Let us invest in you.
Hello, I'm children's author Diane Floyd Bain, and I am co-host for several of the USA Global TV and radio shows. I joined because of the purpose of the USA Global TV and radio. They provide content for the viewers and listeners, an opportunity for people around the world to have their own show or even be a guest on an existing show. We truly believe in helping others get their positive message out to the world. We also have the opportunity for the listeners. You can watch on several platforms, and on YouTube, you can ask questions and even give a comment. We absolutely love it. I love being part of the USA Global TV and radio because I love positive messages, and who doesn't? And we need more of that in the world. We are a family, and we hope you will join us and become part of the family too.
This program has been brought to you in part by Zane Carson Carruth, etiquette and protocol expert, international award-winning author, television show host, and philanthropist. Thank you to Zane, our official diamond sponsor for USA Global TV and Radio in partnership with E360 TV. Zane is the author of The World's First Tooth Fairy Ever, as well as many other children's books. She's also the television host of Elegance, Polished Demeanor, and Posh Living, seen on USA Global TV and Radio.
Hi, my name is Zane Carson Carruth, and I'm the author of this book, The World's First Tooth Fairy Ever.
Reading is magic. Studies have shown that reading to your children lays the foundation for greater success in life. Reading helps develop language and vocabulary skills. It helps improve memory, and it encourages curiosity and inspires creativity. The benefits are immeasurable, and as a parent, you'll benefit too. In only 10 or 15 minutes a day, you'll be creating more memories and a bonding experience that will last for years to come. So take time to read to your children. Read them books about things that engage and interest them. Tales of fairies and magic fascinate children, and as everyone knows, the Tooth Fairy is at the top of the list. If your child loves magic, wands, adventure, and what child doesn't, you'll love reading them books from the trademarked series, The World's First Tooth Fairy Ever. Follow along as Bella, the world's first tooth fairy, accidentally starts the tooth fairy tradition. Learn the tricks of being a professional tooth fairy in the book, Bella Starts a Tooth Fairy School. Your child's imagination will soar as you read the adventures of Bella and her magic wand. These wonderful books are available at worldsfirsttoothfairy.com and at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and Walmart.
To learn more about Zane, contact her through her website, zanecarruth.com, ZANECARRUTH.com. Order Zane's books and merchandise. Contact her about being a keynote speaker at your next event.